This is the beef tallow hold method. It takes barbecue to the next level. Perfect barked, smoked and juicy meat. But can we take it even further? Let's find out.
Big thanks to Borniak Smokers for sponsoring this video.
If you are a regular viewer of my channel, you know we've been doing some crazy experiment with some crazy results. I'm talking about the beef tallow hold method, where we first smoke our barbecue meats until they're absolutely perfect with the most beautiful bark. And we don't care if they lose their juices and become dry, because we regenerate the barbecue meats with beef tallow. And these experiments have been so successful, but I'm thinking we can even take it a little bit further. I might be wrong, but if I'm right, ho, ho, ho. And to do this experiment, I have these two beautiful pieces of beef, giant beef ribs. Now, why do I need two giant beef ribs? Because one I'm going to use for the regular beef tallow hold method, and the other one is going to be for the new version, the 2.1 version of the beef tallow hold method. The first step of the process is super simple. All I'm going to do is put on a little bit of Pitmaster beef seasoning. I'm just going to sprinkle that on, and I'm going to do that for both of these ribs. I want a nice coat on them. I'm just going to leave all of the beef fat on. I'm not too worried about it. It's going to render down perfect with this method. I do want to make sure that the seasoning sticks well to the beef, and I'm going to season all sides. Look at that. Now that is a beautiful piece of beef. Let's do both of these. I did get these beautiful beef ribs off of our own bull. Yes, that's still where this beef is coming from. We butchered it before the summer. We let it dry age for 2 weeks, and now we're still enjoying what comes off of it. These beef ribs are now ready to go on the barbecue, and I'll be using the Borniak smoker. All I have to do is switch on the controller, then set the temperature. You see, normally I like to smoke my meats at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, which is around 250 degrees Fahrenheit. But now I'm going to set the temperature to 140, which is closer to 290 degrees Fahrenheit. And the reason that I do that is because of the fat. I want this fat to be rendered out fully. All there's left to do now is add some smoke wood, hit the smoke button, and put the beef ribs in the barbecue. Close the door and let the Borniak do its job. It has been a total of 7 hours and the beef ribs are done. I'm going to shut the smoke off. Let's do a closer inspection, see how the Borniak did. Ooh, boy. That looks pretty good. Now you have to be careful because there's layers of fat that can just fall apart. Oh boy. Can you guys, are you getting this? Do you see that? That is some good looking barbecue. This thing has fallen over onto the rack. The bark on this barbecue is just on a whole nother level. And that is what you get for smoking for such a long time. Your barbecued food just becomes so much better. The only problem is that we lost so much moisture that we kind of need to regenerate the barbecue food. If I just let this rest and cut into it, it would be pretty good. But not as good as it can be. At least not at that barbecue Michelin star restaurant where we wanted it. And that is why we have this tray. In this tray I have some beef tallow. And it's not fully molten yet, but it's almost there. And now the standard method is to take barbecue food that has become a bit dry and then put it in the beef tallow to regenerate it. Make sure that it's submerged. And I'm going to keep this in the beef tallow for at least 2 hours at a temperature of 65 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, you can do that in the barbecue, but you can also just place this in the oven. And of course, since we're using the Borniak smoker, I can just put it in there, close the door, and readjust the temperature to 65 degrees Celsius. I know so far nothing crazy happened. However, here comes the thing. I got a little remark from my editor last time he watched this, and he said, what if you put some barbecue seasoning in it, a little bit of flavor, and make the meat taste even better? I had to think about it a while, but actually it's kind of genius. Because if the beef fat can go back into the meat and make it juicy and tender, then so can the seasoning. All I have to do is take the Pitmaster barbecue seasoning and put it in with the beef tallow, dissolving it, making it like a marinade. Of course, you can add as much or as little as you want, but let's do this experiment right and get at least half a jar of that seasoning into that beef tallow. That looks pretty good to me. Let's slide in the beef ribs. And now this goes into the Borniak smoker as well. And this smoker now acts not as a smoker, but also like one of those professional kitchen tools. Now the experiment has ended and it's time that we take a look at the results. Here is the tray with the clear beef tallow, and here we have the marinated beef tallow. So without further ado, the side-by-side comparison. I can clearly see the difference between the clear beef tallow and the beef tallow that we marinated. But the question is it worth it? Can you actually taste the difference? Look at these beef ribs. That is insane. I do apologize for all the good looking barbecue that we have on this show, because honestly, it just makes me so hungry. I just want to eat. At this point, I really don't care. I've been waiting for so long. Look at that. Isn't that the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Of course you can reuse the beef tallow, right? So you understand, so it's not a waste. You just keep that tray and just keep using it again until you think, well, it needs to be replaced. First, let's do the reference version. I don't know where to start. Should I just pull it off the bone? Like that. It just stretch off the bone. Clean off the bone. That's a good sign to start with. I'm just gonna slice this in half. Oh, insane. Beef tallow heaven. Let's do a flip. Ooh, that is absolutely freaking beautiful. Look, I'm not squeezing, I'm just showing you a little movement so you can appreciate. You see all these little cracks that we got here? It just filled up with beef tallow. Look at that. Ooh. All right, let's check out the other one. I'm just gonna push off the meat from the bone, clean off the bone. And again, this is proof that this method is so soft. Does the 2.1 version work? That is a big chunk of fat in the middle. But still, even though we have so much fat in the middle, that big piece right there, it doesn't make it the best beef rib, but it definitely makes for some juicy and tender beef. But if we take a closer look side by side, then you'll actually be able to see a color difference. You see a little bit of orange. The beef tallow that comes out here is orange, and here it's clear. That is a good indication that this experiment worked, but I'd rather taste it than look at it. All right, let's do the clear beef tallow. Oh, that's good food. That is barbecue heaven. Now we're gonna go for the marinated beef tallow. Obviously, I'm not gonna eat all the fat. Let's go in. Oh. So, this is a fail. I'm still gonna take another bite, but it's a fail. Do you know the story where it's like a fairy tale? A traveler comes to an inn. He's been working real hard. He's traveled a long way and he needs to recover. So he asks for soup and he pays a silver guilder for every ring of fat that is in the soup. And so the lady of the inn makes a soup and she starts putting in butter and more fat and all these rings start getting in the soup. She's thinking, oh, I'm gonna be rich. And in the end, the whole bowl of soup turns into one ring, which the traveler doesn't see, which then she only gets one silver guilder. This is kind of like that. I mean, the clear beef tallow is perfectly fine. No, the clear beef tallow is amazing barbecue. It is really all that you want. The bark is perfect and all of the intense flavor is on the bark. And then you have the inside, the meat. It tastes like meat, it tastes like beef. Then we infuse the other one with more barbecue flavor. Not really flavor, more seasoning. And that kind of ruined the whole experience, because what was before on the outside and very exciting is now everywhere. And it kind of ruins the whole experience of eating something beefy and then another bite, a little bark. And the whole balance is gone and the barbecue experience is gone. So there is a thing that's called too much. And this is where it ends. This is too much. The only experiment left to do is the brisket. Let's think about that.